Why does social media favor national news over local news? This is going to be something that we need to figure out if we want to figure out how do we get people involved at a local level. How do we get people motivated to serve their communities, to contribute to their communities, to hold their local officials accountable? So, to think through why social media favors national news, I'd like to do a thought experiment. And the thought experiment will be between two different issues. One is that there's local burglaries, where some group of criminals are breaking into people's houses occasionally, and the local police and local government is trying to deal with that. And then the other issue is going to be on the national stage, and that is going to have to do with teachers' unions embezzling money. The platforms, I'm going to argue, are going to much prefer the national teachers embezzling situation. And why is that? So let's think that through. The first reason the platforms will prefer the national stories is that there's just a lot more content generated on national stories. You just have a lot more people who might be talking about it, a lot more variations in the ways that they're expressing the news or they're telling the story. And the more content you have, the better the algorithms can do at selecting content that is really engaging, that tells the story well. And if we imagine a local story, how many people might write about that? Maybe 2 or 3. Another thing that's important about having a lot of content is that the platforms want you to feel that you have to go on the platform to manage your fear or to manage your threat about whatever's going on. So they need a constant stream of news. They can't just serve up the same article with the same information every hour of the day. They need variations. They need new ways of telling the story, new pieces of information. And with a national news story, they have that stream of content such that the news cycle is 24/7. They're not going to be able to do that with a local story because there's just not enough people generating content. Now, the second reason that the algorithms favor the national news is that they have more data to match the perfect type of content on that news to you personally. And the way they match content with people is, of course, they profile you and they kind of know that you have certain characteristics, certain things that you react to. But when you narrow the data down to the local level, it's much, much smaller. And the smaller the sample size, the less certain the algorithms can be that they can get stuff that you will respond well to. So if they want to match content to you in a way that will really get you going, in a way that will really engage you, they need a larger data set. And the national news can give them that large data set in a way that the local news cannot. Now, the third reason that local news is not as favorable to the algorithms is that the local news could actually pull you offline. Like, it could get you to meet with your neighbors, to show up to the local forum, to show up to the city council meetings. The local news is basically inviting you to engage with the people around you off platform. And of course, that's not what the platforms want. They want you to feel like the way you engage with meaningful endeavors is in the online space. So that's another disadvantage and another reason the algorithms might want to disincentivize you paying attention to local politics or local governmental issues. If this is the case, and if you're convinced that yes, there is going to be an emphasis on national news compared to local news, the question is that a problem? And I think this is a big problem because local news is where people have agency. Local news is where you can actually make a difference and where you actually really understand the pain that people in your community are in. You really understand what are the trade-offs that different groups in your community are wrestling with over an issue. That's where you need real human beings building relationships, going out and volunteering their time, going out and volunteering serving on these local government committees in order to make real nose to the grinder change. Without that, if all of our eyes are just paying attention to the national drama, then some of our local communities are going to suffer by the loss of the potential manpower, the potential intellectual power, the potential attention that people could have been giving to solving local problems, but are instead giving to the national news cycle.